Now, the massive showdown is about to begin. Phase 2 has started here in Germany. Destroy the opposition party and the whole country will go up in flames. There's no other way to describe what's happening here right now. Probably over 1 million people will head to Berlin next Monday. And that's what this video is about. And if you want to support this channel, I would really appreciate a like and a subscription. Let's take a look at this. The tipping point has been reached here in Germany.
No, but he could also call a vote of confidence himself.
That's option 2.
So I just received a message that absolutely needs to be taken seriously. If nothing happens before the summer break, then we're lost, Sasha. That's exactly how the message came in. Even if he calls for a vote of confidence, he'll just come up with a reform package. Now, with the CDU, with the SPD being forced to join the CDU votes to push this package through, to push it through to stay in power, Frank-Walter Steinmeier still believes he will not call for new elections. And anyone who thinks that if Friedrich Merz loses the vote of confidence, he will also immediately lose the chancellorship is mistaken. In fact, they are very much mistaken. Theoretically, you don't have to do anything at all if you lose the vote of confidence. You have only lost this one single project, yes.
According to a Forsa survey for Stern and RTL, 41% of Germans believe that the union would have better chances with voters without Friedrich Merz as chancellor.
Who at the same time are also demanding even more left-wing policies here in Germany and are calling for even more decline for Germany. And at the same time, let's be honest, Hendrik West has made quite a splash in recent days. Now the CDU has suddenly noticed. That's pure chaos that then breaks out in the CDU. Hendrik West as chancellor candidate would ruin the CDU. And yes, he really was in the conversation, and now suddenly everyone is pulling back, and Hendrik West was probably discredited very quickly, just like many political experts are already saying. And now let's get back to the reforms. If these reforms, which are now supposed to be implemented by the CDU and passed with a majority in the Bundesrat and at the same time in the Bundestag, then I say goodbye. German culture, farewell, dear German citizens. The big companies will leave this country, the small companies will close down, and the worker will no longer be willing to go to work in the morning at all. Why bother? Retirement at 70, and we can watch as all of Europe, I mean really all of Europe, buys their own homes. And we're just the slaves. Slaves of the government, because that's exactly what would happen exactly.
Especially among supporters of the union, 42% are convinced that another candidate would be better. The name of North Rhine-Westphalian State Premier Hendrik Wüst keeps coming up.
And today the showdown is happening in Meschede. And at the same time, I keep saying it, polls that have already been conducted are being withheld right now. And I wonder why. What are we not allowed to see? What kind of polls are circulating in Saxony-Anhalt right now? And at the same time, well, gasoline is getting more expensive again. And today they have to come up with a plan. And at the same time, they can't let the showdown in Meschede fall through. That now even the remaining citizens are seeing that the CDU is drifting even further to the left after they had promised us otherwise. An end to left-wing politics, and we're making policies for the working people again. Of course, the CDU doesn't want us to repeat this because what they're putting in motion now is, I would say, nothing more than an enslavement project here in Germany.
Not a single person has brought this up to me. What people are interested in is how we can lower energy costs, how we can lower taxes, how we can reduce bureaucracy. These topics help us increase net income from gross earnings.
Let's start with the Energy Efficiency Act. It will destroy thousands of jobs here in Germany. Of course, that will mean less take-home pay. Pension contributions will rise to almost 20%. That will mean more take-home pay, or rather the opposite. I think that's more likely to happen. At the same time, yes, If health insurance contributions are possibly increased now, mothers can no longer rely on family insurance, or fathers can no longer rely on family insurance. There will probably be more net income left over from the gross as well. The government's share keeps increasing. And well, investments will inevitably go down if you have to give more and more money to the government. And yes, of course, Mr. Linneman is asked when that will happen. What this federal government is planning looks completely different, of course, especially the union. However, there probably won't be a classic tax increase like VAT, but instead, social contributions will simply be raised later on, deceiving the citizens from start to finish again.
Now also from the state premiers, because they want to have a say as well. And of course, in a way, that's understandable because a tax reform also affects them. They would also be missing money in their budgets. Now today, it's clear that pension contributions will rise even more than feared. They could rise by almost 1.3% by 2040.
And at the same time, well, 2 to 4 billion euros are simply given out again for Ukraine without asking anyone, without maybe even making another European country share the liability. No, that's, again, like I said, between 2 and 4 billion, you don't really know exactly. And of course, you immediately read again that the SPD is now putting their last people in position so that they also become non-dismissible in the Bundeswehr. Just to further highlight the SPD's cronyism or nepotism among good friends. They have made this country their prey and they won't give it up without a fight, not even through new elections. We urgently need reforms here in Germany, but what we really need are party reforms. All the garbage that works against Germany has to go immediately, and that's exactly what it's about. Namely, next Monday, and I'm going to mention this here every day now, Project 1 Million. You haven't heard about it yet. Check out Project 1 Million on the internet. People who are heading to Berlin by car convoy, buses, and trains to demonstrate. A resignation from Friedrich Merz is more than appropriate at this time.
It stands out in the report from the SPD-led Ministry of Finance.
Instead of the planned 37 billion euros, only 24 billion were paid out last year. So there's a gap of more than 13 billion euros. The Black-Red coalition is also clearly falling short of its own targets when it comes to implementing the projects. Out of 109 planned milestones for this year, only 26 had been implemented by the end of May.
So the money was almost completely distributed. Well, except for about 10 billion, but who even cares about 10 billion these days? And at the same time, almost no projects are being implemented. So the money ended up in the current budget, not for taxes, but to fill financial gaps, to distribute it all over the world, to pocket the so-called kickbacks once again. That's just what I think. I have to say, I assume that companies close to the CDU could benefit greatly from this. For example, rebuilding war-torn areas and so on. You know what I mean? And at the same time, people's tax money is just being thrown out the window indiscriminately. And they even have the audacity to go on television and to say that we need to work on making sure people can finally keep more of their gross pay again. No, in the future, people will have more gross income, but less net income. They're betting everything on that, so that at some point there really will be a revolt here in Germany. And I hope that the whole thing will happen as early as next Monday, and that maybe not just 1 million people will take to the streets, but several million people. And every day, I will now point out that it's really, really important to go to Berlin next Monday.